informative and educative strategies for the practice of the corporate governance profession.
Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals. Hello and many thanks for finding time to join us from the studios of MITV. My name is ADAHADA Labiran, welcoming you to yet another episode of your favorite program on television, Corporate Governance Platform. Corporate Governance Platform is coming to you on the bills of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. On this particular episode, we shall be taking a look at roles and functions of the company secretary in corporate governance, and have the privilege of the presence of Mr. Sylvester ADAHADA. Mr. ADAHADA is an associate of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ACIS. Mr. Sylvester ADAHADA, you're welcome to Corporate Governance Platform.
Thank you, Boyega, and good evening, viewers. It's nice to be here. I guess at the end of this program, we'll pick a thing or two as we continue to discuss governance.
Well, we are taking a look at roles and functions of the company secretary in corporate governance, and I would like to get started by asking you to tell us what roles does a company secretary normally play in organizations?
Thank you for the question. The roles of company secretaries in organizations, it could be diverse depending on what industry and what institution. But on the whole, the overarching role is that the company secretary guides the board and management of the company in discharging their function in line with the ethos of corporate governance and relevant laws. If you understand that the company is an artificial person, so unlike you and I, it doesn't have eyes, nose, hands, and all that. But natural persons have got to fill that role and ensure that the company works the way it should work. The board, on one part, does that. Then, in turn, the company secretary is supposed to guide the board in ensuring that while performing its function, those functions are performed in line with relevant laws and principles of governance.
Well, I would like to invite our numerous viewers to be a part of this production by calling 0705 768 1980. 0705 768 1980. Text message only. Text message only. 0705 768 1980. We'd like you to be a part of this production, and we're taking a look at roles and functions of the company secretary in corporate governance, and have the pleasure of the presence of Mr. Sylvester ADAHADA, ACIS. Well, we'd like to continue by asking you what are some of the roles stipulated for the company secretary under the code.
Okay, the roles under the code, and I think by the code now you mean the Code of Corporate Governance 2018. The roles are not different from the general roles that you would have company secretary discharge. Of course, the first role of guiding the board of the company, when I say the board now, I'm beginning with the chairman and all the directors in the board, and of course also guiding the management of the company. In terms of the board, the company secretary is also supposed to give notices of meetings, also induct new members into the board, acts as the central information disseminator between the board and management of the company. So for instance, you understand that the management of the company runs the day-to-day affairs of the company, but the board does not do that. The board will typically come around once in a quarter. So the flow of information from management to the board to enable the board discharge its duties is part of what the company secretary does.
Okay. Well, why company secretary is often referred to as the sounding board of the corporate governance, the sounding board of corporate governance. Why do they refer to him like that?
Thank you for that question. I say that you stressed a phrase, the sounding board.
Sounding board.
So one would want to ask, what does that mean? A sounding board it's a person that you would normally go to validate or to check. If you have a particular view, you run to that person to check whether your view is the correct view. So bringing that to corporate governance, when you say the company secretary is sounding board, it means that the company secretary is, or at least should be, that go-to person. Whenever any issue of corporate governance comes up, it should be that person that you can run to get guidance and direction. So the secretary being the sounding board of corporate governance is, as he's discharging his role, it should be that person that he can be approached to provide solutions, to provide guidance in relation to corporate governance issues.
Well, for the benefit of our numerous viewers, I want you to tell us what a company secretary is not.
Okay, well, I have said so far, I've said what the company secretary is. What he is not is that the company secretary cannot on his own do what he's not authorized to do. So whatever he's doing is either is being empowered by the code or relevant laws, or is being authorized by the board itself. Anything outside this, the company secretary is not.
Well, you can be a part of this presentation by sending a text message to 0705 768 1980. 0705 768 1980. I have with me in the studios Mr. Sylvester ADAHADA. He is a distinguished associate of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ACIS. And we are taking a look at the roles of and functions of the company secretary in corporate governance. Well, may I start by asking you, references are often made to the company secretary's role in functional and administrative capacity. What are these functional and administrative roles?
Okay, the role of the secretary in functional and administrative capacity. So far I have been talking about the role and function it discharges to the board and then to management. When we say in functional capacity, it means that the company secretary reports or works with the board through the chairman. That happens in functional capacity. So all the things that the company secretary does to the board or for the board through the chairman, those things are done in its functional capacity. On the other hand, the company secretary also works with the head of management, who is the MD CEO. So when he's working with the MD CEO, that is in his administrative capacity.
Okay, and when he's actually working as a company secretary, that is when he's on the board.
Correct.
Well, the company secretary also ensures a good information flow between the MD and the chairman of the board. In the area of information dissemination, how would you like to situate the company secretary?
Okay, you know the secretary hates the secretariat. And the secretariat itself is a depository of information, resolutions, policies of the company. When we say that the secretary is supposed to aid the information flow, it means that you should be able to go to him and obtain whatever information you require regarding the board of the company. So between the board and the management, I had mentioned earlier that whenever the board comes around, it is for management to present the affairs of the company to the board. So the secretary has to stay in between, works with the management, obtains relevant information in terms of board papers, and disseminates them to the board. So that is how the flow is.
Well, let's go to this other one. The code says company secretary should be a person with relevant qualification, competence, and competence necessary to effectively discharge the duties of his office. What qualifications are being referred to here?
Thank you for that question. I think in that question, again, we have two key words: qualifications and competence. And I think that there's a thin line between these two, and I'd like to elaborate. Qualification is actually, I would say, what you could go into the classroom to learn, but competence is what you can actually do. A very good example is that Sylvester can be a lawyer. The moment he is called to bar, he's a qualified lawyer. But there are certain things he might want to do as a lawyer, and he could be struggling because he has not built competence as a lawyer. So in terms of qualification, the CAMA, when I say CAMA now, I mean the Companies and Allied Matters Act, which is the law that regulates the running of companies in Nigeria, has actually identified a few qualifications that a company secretary should have, beginning with, of course, ICSAN, some of it, law, and an accountant also be a secretary. Those are the qualifications. But in terms of competence, what can you actually do? I think in this area, the company secretary needs to know his environment. You need to know the law and the regulations and the codes that will guide you in discharging your duties. And then thirdly, and very importantly, the soft skills.
The soft skills.
The soft skills. So the secretary should be a good communicator. He's an organizer, a coordinator, and even a diplomat. So you should know what to say, when to say, and importantly, how to say it. So I think all these are what go into the competence and qualifications of the company secretary.
So therefore, what you're saying essentially is that apart from your regular practice as a lawyer or somebody who is a chartered accountant or coming from any academic background, he needs to approach the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria for the professional exams and also qualify as an associate member of the institute. Is that what you're just saying?
Definitely. If you look at the program offered by the institute, you would understand why it is set apart for what it's doing. In addition to whatever you would have learned in other disciplines, the institute has the program that is tailor-made for the role of the company secretary. Of course, beginning with the foundation stage, the pre-professional, and even the professional aspects of it. All the programs are designed to prepare members to be able to discharge their role as company secretary.
Well, you can be a part of this presentation by sending a text message to 0705 768 1980. The program is Corporate Governance Platform and it's coming to you from MITV. It's also on the beam of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. I have with me in the studios an associate member of the institute. His name is Sylvester ADAHADA. He's going to attend to all your text messages. I'd like to go to another question, and the codes also provides thoughts subject to the provisions of extant laws. The appointment and removal of the company secretary should be a matter for the board. Why is this provision necessary? And not a matter for the managing director, a matter for the board. Could you please explain this?
Thank you. This is a very important question for governance. The question is, why do I think that we have that in the code? I think we have that in the code to guarantee independence of the company secretary. If you look at all the things I have said in the past few minutes, what the role is all about and what the secretary does, you would understand that you need some form of independence to be able to discharge this role. So it is important that the board needs to be involved. If there's anything that warrants for him to be removed, then it should be a matter for the board. That way, it is clear, or the board ensures that due process was followed, and it's not something that can be done with some whims. So I think that is to guarantee the independence of the secretary and to also ensure that due process is followed.
Well, I have with me here, what do you advise a company secretary should do if he or she is working with a difficult chairman who is dominant and dominant? What would you advise he should do? Well, it's now saying that and will not allow any dissenting opinion from any quarters.
Thank you, Goega. I think this is the most practical of all the questions we have been talking about in the past few minutes, and I'll tell you why. Practical in the sense that these are things that you're likely going to find, and it's also something that you are unlikely to learn in school. This is something that you can deal with if you have built the right competence. Remember, I just mentioned soft skills a while ago. So if you happen to work with a chairman that is domineering, that wouldn't allow any dissenting views, what I think the company secretary should do is that, first of all, you will need to know your onions. You need to know what you're doing. You need to gain the confidence of your board and the chairman. And then you need to approach the issue from a professional perspective. Of course, it's not about you or the chairman, but it's about what the code or what is allowed. So if you are approaching it from this aspect, the chairman wouldn't have any difficulty, and you won't also have difficulty. Let me also advise, specifically, if you find yourself in that situation, you would as much as possible ensure that whenever you're preferring advice, it is backed by what the code or relevant laws say. That way it is clear that it's not about the chairman, rather it's about the right thing to be done in the circumstance.
And for the benefit of our numerous viewers, it is not all the chairmen that are members of the institute. Some of them are probably maybe first or second degree holders. So as you have rightly said, whatever you are going to advise must be backed by the code. So that's when the company secretary will be making an impact,
Correct.
Especially on a particular subject, when he's dealing with a chairman who will not allow a dissenting opinion. So what you're saying is a company secretary will not bring his own personal opinion to play. Is that what you have just said?
Well, his opinion, so long as it's in line with the code and relevant laws, it's not bad.
That's
But let me also say this. Of course, you know that it's not bad for there to be dissenting views on the board. In fact, it is healthy.
That's right.
Indeed, it is healthy.
Okay.
The code allows, in fact, the code provides that the board has to be diverse.
Okay,
You need to have people
diversity of the board.
yes,
Right.
from different backgrounds.
Right.
So that means that the board will then have the benefit of different perspective so that it can make its decisions.
Well, we're still expecting some text messages from our numerous viewers. 0705-768-1980 is the number on which you could send our text message. Mr. Sylvester ADAHADA, ACIS, is with us in the studio. May I quickly ask you, will you say ICSAN training empowers company secretaries to discharge their responsibilities effectively?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me go by trying to say what ICSAN does. I hinted a couple of minutes ago. Of course, you begin with the foundation stage and you see all the programs that are laid out. You get to learn all that you need to, that will equip you. You learn principles of law, economics, IT, accounting. And then when you now progress from there to the pre-professional level, you build on what you learned in the previous level. And then you progress to the professional level and you cap it all. So you see that at every point in time, what you learned helps you to move to the next level, and you keep building until you become a member. So I would say that the training of the institute it's very helpful. And beyond that, you know, we also have continuing education. Even after you've qualified, you still have opportunity of learning and developing on your skills and competence as a member. So I would say that the institute is very good, and the trainings are very good for members.
No, let's go to the next question. Does the company secretary have any role with special reference to whistleblowing?
Okay, I would like to, what is whistleblowing? For the benefit of viewers, I would like to say a bit about that, though it's not something that is really strange. Whistleblowing is part of governance. Basically means that for organizations, you should put in place process and procedure for people to report bad behavior, things like fraud, and all that could happen that are not in line with the principles of governance. So that being said, given that whistleblowing is part of the recommended practice of governance, and the company secretary is himself a governance practitioner, so you would see that everything that has to do with governance, the company secretary is part of it, so he has a role to play in whistleblowing. Indeed, he is supposed to ensure and guide the board to put in place process for whistleblowing.
Well, let's take this question. Would you suggest Nigeria should emulate a country like India, where only charter secretaries are eligible to practice as company secretaries? Here, accountants practice. Here, lawyers practice. People from different diverse background practice if they qualify with their professional exams at ICSAN. But here, he's saying that, would you suggest Nigeria should emulate a country like India, where only charter secretaries are eligible to practice as company secretaries?
Okay, what I would say is this. I would rather approach it from the aspect of asking whether it's beneficial that those who are practicing this profession have the right skills and competence. I think the answer is yes. And really, where do you go to get these skills and competence? Today, ICSAN, as I know, is the only recognized body that provides training and qualifies persons to become charter secretaries and governance practitioners. So that said, I think it would be helpful, I think it would be beneficial that persons practicing in this terrain have the right training, the right skills, and the right competence. Where do you go to get this, if not ICSAN? So I think practitioners should be members of ICSAN.
Well, I would like to quickly mention to our numerous viewers that Sylvester ADAHADA is a lawyer and a chartered governance practitioner. He has over 13 years of board and management level experience in business analysis, strategy and policy formulation and execution, people's management enterprise, wide target searching and performance review and appraisal company transformation initiatives, resource allocation, income growth and cost management, operational efficiency, customer engagement and retention, and as well as risk assessment and management. He also has expertise and excellent skills in company law and practice, company secretarial functions, corporate governance and administration, in-depth knowledge of rules and duties of company directors, corporate legal services. He obtained his Bachelor's of Laws degree from the University of Uyo in 2005 and was called to bar in 2006. After completing his professional training at the Nigerian Law School, Sylvester holds an MBA from the University of Roehampton, United Kingdom, a certificate in high performance leadership from Cornell University, United States of America, USA, and is also a proud alumnus of the prestigious Lagos Business School, where he completed his senior management program in 2009. He has also attended several other management leadership and personal development courses within and outside Nigeria. From 2006, when he was called to the bar, Sylvester has consistently pursued his legal career for past 16 years, beginning in the Lagos commercial law from Ben Unora and Co. In 2009, he joined the services of United Payment Services Limited, formerly Valucard Nigeria Limited, where he is currently the company secretary and group head, legal services. February of 2017, he was appointed a member, Legal Special Interest Working Group of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Payment System Vision 2020. The working group was a standing committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria, saddled with the responsibility of making recommendations to the CBN in form of drafting and or review of guidelines for the regulation of the Nigerian e-payment system. The appointment afforded him the opportunity of brainstorming in different fora with experts in the financial services sector, while making informed policy recommendations to the CBN. Such recommendations guided the CBN in its initiative to position the Nigerian payment system in line with global best practice. Sylvester is happily married and enjoys spending time with his family, playing or watching good football at his leisure. Mr. Sylvester ADAHADA, it's nice having you on this program. I want to say thank you for finding time to join us.
Thank you, Boyega. It was nice to be here.
I've been speaking with Sylvester ADAHADA, ACIS, and we have spoken extensively on the roles and functions of company secretaries on the board. This program will return next week, and until then, on behalf of my technical director, David Adekoju, I am Adegboyega Labiron, thanking you for finding time to join us. Until next week, it's bye for now. Do you have continuity or association plan for your business?
Has anyone shared the concept of sustainability with you?
What about the need to protect the rights of minority shareholders?
What are those ingredients germane to having effective meetings?
For these and many more, tune into Corporate Governance Platform every Thursday on MITV, your darling station, on DSTV 255 and UHF 43 at 4:30 p.m.
Corporate Governance Platform is your best medium for informative and educative strategies for the practice of the corporate governance profession.
Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.